Hello. Welcome back to Demon Media. Seems like we're doing these more often than the actual interviews. Um, uh, so this episode 19, the one that came after the Halloween one. Actually, this will be coming out a week after Halloween. Hey. So today we're gonna be first. Sorry, I've been not recording in a hot minute. So first of all, before we get into the topic of today, which is Ruby Ice Queendom from episodes 1 to 12. So, disclaimer, as this is coming out, episode 7 has been dubbed. So, after that, there's going to be spoilers because the subbed version is out. So, we know what happens from 8 to 12. So, warning now, and there'll be a warning between. Okay, but today, as you can see, for once, for a Ruby video, I have the same person for once. Um, Today we have the amazing Jen cosplays here today. Eh.
Yay, that's me. So, for folks that are new, my name is Jen. I'm a cosplayer. Been a cosplayer for almost 3 years now, coming up on that little anniversary. So, you can find me Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Jen period cosplays 45. And I'm also the founder and host of Cosplay Tea Time. So, be sure to check out those socials as well. So, thank you, Springy, for having me today.
Yay! Of course. So how this is gonna work is just like all the other times. We're gonna go through an episode. One of us will go through an episode. Today I'm gonna start just because. Um, and then the other person will have some extra thoughts if they have any, which I've seen Jen's notes. She will. Um, just a little bit longer than mine. And then we'll go back and forth with a lot of the episodes. But except for the first example of what I'm doing, we're going to be talking about episode 1 of Ice Queendom, which can be watched on Crunchyroll, subbed and dubbed, and the Rooster Teeth website. Again, all for first members, all for. You will have to pay money to watch this.
It's worth
Yay.
it. It's
It's
worth
worth
it.
it. It is good. It is really good, really well animated in my opinion. But I don't watch many animes, so I don't know if my opinion is good on that. But yeah. But so we're gonna start off with episodes 1 and 2, which I'll be doing a first kind of talk about because we're combining these two because basically basics is that episode 1 called Red, White, Black, and Yellow. Use the same white and black, so it messed with my brain. Are just basically reanimated versions of the first 4 trailers. They came out way back in the day. Back in, I wish I looked up the date. Um, for when Ruby, the official series, first was coming out. So that's from there. Um, Basically just reanimated versions, slightly different, just a hair tweaked a little bit because they're no longer trailers. They're combined into one and for an episode. So obviously a little bit different. Episode 2, this is Beacon, is what it's called. Again, basically, it just goes over volume 1 in a nutshell. It's very quick. It doesn't go over every single detail that happened in it. So if you want a longer version of episode 2, go watch the first volume of Ruby, and you'll have the second episode, but longer. Um, But there's obviously a few changes with this one, much more than the first episode. Mainly being a lot of this, at least for episode 2, is changed because it's going from Weiss's perspective instead of Ruby's for at least 98% of it. Some of it is very similar because it's the same events, just reanimated from a different person's perspective. Um, There's a few new things. We first see are a brand new character in episode 2, I do believe, because that's when they're doing the huntress and huntman test or team selection thing. So we first do see our newest character. Let's see if I can remember this name. Their name. Um, that's not their
Enon
name.
Zayden.
Yes, exactly. Uh, I might end up calling. them new witchy person, or because my brain is just not connecting with the name right now. But Jen just said it, but I mean, my brain will not let me say it out of my mouth for some reason. But yeah, and trying to see if there's another big thing that happens in episode 2. I'm trying not to think of spoilers for episode 3, but I think mainly, other than a few different changes of scenes to help with this storyline that we'll be handling for the rest of the season, it's pretty much the same. Jen, prove me wrong. Go.
All right. Episode 1 and 2 notes combined. So, at the start of the episode, we have the beginning narration, just like in the original Rwby series. We had the narrator in the beginning. I thought it was much more visually appealing than the first one because I have a whole Rwby video on my main channel where I described that that narration at the beginning wasn't very attractive to me, so I didn't watch Rwby until years later. But I like the narration in this style. It was a little bit more dramatic, colorful. It was very appealing to me. They covered a lot more characters in the first episode.
Mhm.
Usually, some of these characters, such as Klein, Whitley, and Winter, they were covered mostly in Volume 4, so at a later volume. So, uh, we have a lot more information about Aura, which my running joke back in the day used to be I knew nothing really about Aura except for what Pyrrha explained. And then when I read before or after the fall, we get a little bit more about Aura, but it was much more explained during episode 1. I keep wanting to call it chapter 1. So that's what it's called in the original Rwby, but I might go back and forth. Who knows?
Mhm.
The one thing that kind of confused me was how semblances were revered in Ice Queendom. Usually it was like, you hear like a character has a semblance in original Rwby. Big deal. Everybody has a semblance. But whenever like it'd be like, oh, I have a semblance, like, oh, you're so cool. Like this is like so unique and whatnot. So I was just like, it just kind of helps with the battle and stuff. So like with the fighting. Then we get to the most awesome scene in Rwby Volume 1 that I was looking forward to. Excuse me, episode 1, and that was Rwby versus Roman at the death shop. Just the scene, my inner Rwby like geeked out. I love the background music. Shout out to Void Chords for coming up with the music and whatnot. I have not been able to stop listening to it. It is so good. So yeah, I was geeking out pretty hard during that whole scene. Then we have Glenda shows up to help protect Rwby, just like in the original. I thought that background music was very good, very elegant for Glenda Goodwitch, who I have a very soft spot for in my heart. And then like Springy mentioned, you had like the trailers. We get a little bit more background with Blake, the whole fight on the train. I thought it was very pretty, beautiful animation, art designs. I loved it a little bit more than the black trailer, I will say. And not only that, there was some weapons differences that I noticed compared to the original. So Weiss's sword, or like her rapier that she uses, had like some lettering or something. And then Blake's gun had like this individual shot that could be suspended. I forgot to rewatch it before this, but I remember just like seeing that. I'm like, oh, that's so neat. Like, not only do they like have like personal like semblances that help them with the battle, but like their weapons too kind of had like these small upgrades. So we didn't get to see more of that, and I was a little bit disappointed. But then I was like, that was pretty cool. So
Mhm.
then we have episode 2, and it starts with my two favorite characters, Ren and Nora, of course. I was so excited to see Nora. We get to see Ren and Nora a little bit later on, and their interactions are like so adorable. I love those two so much. Even with the anime, I was just like, they're still my favorite characters. Spring, I'm surprised you didn't mention this. We talked about it about Jean not liking pumpkin peach cereal, and it was
Oh
like,
god.
what? What?
What?
Like, there's a whole joke and memes about Jean liking pumpkin peach.
That was I know. I forgot.
It's okay.
I didn't rewatch the first two. I should have, but I was like, nah, I'm
Oh,
good.
not good. I just remember like seeing that because they brought up pumpkin pizza, and I'm like, oh yeah, Jean loves it. He has this sweater and all this stuff. He's like, yeah, I don't care for it. And I'm just like, who are you? What are you doing? What have you done? So yeah, I missed Ruby and Jean's interaction. Like whenever they
Mm,
both met on the first day, whenever like she's helping him up and everything in the locker room scene. Like I miss seeing their interactions together. I think that really helped build up their character relationship. So
mm-hmm,
because they kind of bonded as misfits, like just being like not really popular, well trained, and then that kind of helped them bond to be leaders because they both lead a team each, and then in volume 4 there's more to it, so there's like so much more that goes on with their friendship. I thought Ruby was trying a bit too hard at times to be cheerful, which I found irritating. I know she's supposed to be like happy go lucky, but it was just like you're trying a little too hard.
mm-hmm,
So that did get a little bit irritating, but I was like, you know what? It's fine. It's okay. But I did love Yang. I've always had such a love for Yang in Volume 1 because she's so spunky and gung ho, and I'm gonna fight Grim, and I'm gonna take on like a beast full, like a forest full of Grim, and all this stuff. So it was really nice to see that again, especially after it happens in later seasons. So during the forest scene, I thought it was a little strange to hear Ruby say "I hate you" to Weiss. That seemed a bit out of character for her, and I was just like, "Are you really?" Like I
mm-hmm,
could see her being like saying like, "Oh, you're so annoying," or "I can't stand you," but to say like, "I hate you," like that means quite a bit. And of course, I watched this in Japanese dub, so I don't know if there's like a different meaning or something. Maybe it just means I just strongly dislike you. But when I hear someone say like, "I hate you," that is like the bottom of the bottom. It's just like it's not good.
mm-hmm,
Uh, and then Springy brought up there is a new character, Shion Zayden. They use they them pronouns. At first, I wasn't crazy about them. I was like, I don't know how they're gonna fit into the story. Like, what do they do, sort of thing. But then, realize like maybe later on they'll be useful. So it's kind of like you have to wait and see. You have to like trust the process.
mm-hmm,
And then lastly, too, for episode 2, so the fight scene, the epic fight scene that really ties in volume 1 uh, in the original, which was, fighting the Nevermore and the Scorpion. That's Stalker, I think. It was very clean. It was very eye appealing. Seemed everyone did their own thing until the teamwork. I was a little bit sad that there was no Pyrrha nor a shield. Whenever Pyrrha like boosts Nora up and Nora goes in the air and she's like hee and then like comes down, like that's my favorite scene. That's what I love about Nora. So
mm-hmm,
a little bit disappointed. But the part where Ruby defeats the Nevermore, I thought very pretty animation. But I didn't get the same excitement as the original, maybe because I've watched the original so many times that I just
mm-hmm.
expected. But I was like, I guess I was expecting like a little bit more wow and zang and pizzazz, and it was just like, this is okay. Can't really relive that moment again and again, even though I wish.
Mm-hmm.
And that pretty much wraps up my review of the first 2 episodes. So
Mm-hmm.
I move on to the third.
Yep. I think one scene from episode 2, that's going to be pretty important. But right now, if you haven't seen it, you have
Mhm.
no idea why I'm bringing it up. But Jean, I do believe Weiss also like pricks their fingers or something of them on some sort of thorn in the woods. That's gonna be being brought up later. That's the only reason why I bring it up. And yes, I agree. There should have been more Juniper in these episodes
Yes.
in general. But yeah, but now, yeah,
Just need a whole spin-off series of Team Juniper. Oh my gosh, I would love that.
Rwby, Team Juniper. Go through the whole thing again, the first few episodes, just like this, but only
Yeah,
from Juniper's perspective.
that would be cool. I would love that. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to episode 3. I have a couple notes here. So we finally get to meet Penny Polendina, yay! AKA adorable Penny, and her Japanese voice actress was absolutely adorable. I love the way that she voiced Penny, kind of like that robotic, but it yeah, it was really cute. So let's see, kind of chibi episode. Oh wait, yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry, I messed up my own notes. Oh gosh. So with Penny, that comes an important scene. The dock fighting scene with Roman and the White Fang and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They did not show that whole scene. It was kind of like, all right, like everybody's at the docks, and then like 2 seconds later, it's like Penny's just coming out from the dust, like, all right, we're done. So I think that's why I have it kind of reminded me of the Ruby Cheaty episode where Penny's like coming up to Ruby, like, let's go play, let's go hang out. And Ruby's like, we're busy. And Penny's like, oh, let me help and stuff. So I think that's what it kind of reminded me of was like that
Mm-hmm.
whole Cheaty episode. So
Mm-hmm.
a little bit disappointed because that was, the original had really good action scenes like Sun fighting Roman and, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Uh, let's see. So moving forward into the episode, you have Professor Port talks with Weiss, and then Ruby talks with Professor Ozpin. I do like how they talk about what's going on with each of those characters. I think that helps with the development
Mm-hmm.
between the two to recognize, like, yes, you have your differences. Yes, there is an age gap difference, but together you'll be able to you got to be able to work together as partners and as a team with Blake and Yang.
Mm-hmm.
Um, should rewatch this. Oh no. Pyrrha helping Jean unlock semblance. It just didn't feel the same to me. Like when she first did it, she did like a little, I don't know if it was like a chant or something, but she kind of like helps him unlock his aura,
Mm-hmm.
so he can figure out what his semblance is and whatnot. So, but it just didn't feel like, I don't know. The relationship didn't feel the same way like it did in volumes 1 and 2. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a thing, whatever. Let's go back to the girls, which I understand. It's Ruby, it's not Team Juniper. Okay. And then we do see Jean is attacked by a Grim. So this is like a Grim creature that kind of comes and sleep. Maybe Springy might have a little bit more. But we do get to see Sheenon's semblance, which is helping catch these Nightmare Grim. But he also needed help from his team. So there's like, a Grim comes, attacks Jean while he's sleeping. The team wakes up, finds out he's covered in all these like little viney things and stuff. Sheenon's caught in to catch the Grim, but his team has to go in. So they have like these little dolls and stuff to help him go in to the dream and help defeat it. But not only that, we get to see cute bunny Jean. So
Best
that was
friend.
like that was adorable. Yeah. So that was episode 3.
Yep. Only things I'm going to add because there isn't that much because Jen has all the notes. I have the episode names and 5 things I remember. Um, episode 3 is called "A Nightmare Comes." Um, and to answer your question, Jen, the Grim is just called Nightmare. At least that's what they keep saying in the show. It could be named something else on the wiki or something, but that's what they say in the show. Um, Throughout the episode, Jean has kind of been and Weiss have both been kind of visited by what I would say like maybe like a negative version of themselves throughout the throughout the night. Mainly, hopefully, occurrence storyline in my brain is going in the right order. Jean saw like a evil version of himself or a negative version of himself. Looks exactly the same. Lost opportunity, in my opinion. But I also cosplayed Grim Jean, and I really wish we would have saw that. But we don't. Anywho, um, and that's what leads into Jean not being able to wake up from said dream, and them seeing him having these like vines with thorns um, all over him. And so, in case you guys don't know, Jean sleeps in a onesie. So to see all of these vines and stuff, they took the top half of the onesie off of him, which like his team did. I'm like, okay. I someone's gonna need to call HR on that, but or something. But
I feel like it was Ren. It had to be
it
Ren.
had
So
you actually no, I feel like it could have also been Nora just being like, you know what, just stop.
that's
Mm. Um, but something I did want to bring up, not going into the whole story of what why they changed the voice actor, because that's a whole thing. So they did change the voice actor for Port. I had to look it up because he sounds exactly the same in the English dub, because that's one of the episodes I did watch in English dub. Was they did change the voice actor for, you can look up said reason. I'm not going to go over it because I'm no. Uh, but they did replace him. But if you're watching it and just not really, if you're not paying attention, then why are you watching it? But if you're just like sitting there and just like not fully like, oh, this is a new. If you don't know it's a new person, he sounds very much the same like the past voice actor. So I have to say, very good job on that. Excuse me, but I think that's all I wanted to say. I also loved Baby Jean, because like at first I wasn't, because this is my first reaction when I first saw it. I wasn't watching the show because I didn't have a subscription to watch said thing. So I was like, so I just saw a picture of him. Like, wait, is Jean Faunus in this season now? Because I just looked at him like, wait, why does he have ears? I don't get it. But now I actually do understand. It makes sense. Blah blah. But I, from later on, what we know from later on, I'm not gonna go into that now because we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. I do wish we saw badass Jean. You know, like that's because later on in either, I think it's technically in the next episode, but it's close enough. I'm gonna say it because I'm gonna be talking about it in a second anyway. Uh, that the Nega Jean is like Nega. It's called Nega versions of them of Weiss. Which, if you have seen any of the trailers, you know about her. They call her either Nega Weiss in the dub or Nightmare Weiss in the Japanese subbed version. I'm going to call them Nightmare versions because that's more cool sounding. Um, it's sad that like that Weiss got a really cool design, new design, and Jean got turned into a baby and got some ears. Adorable. I love it to death. But when you see what's coming up later, it's kind of disappointing. I love it, just also, wish it was closer to what we see with the other things, in my opinion. But that's me, and also Grim Jean. So I am very much. I want to see Jean evil. Okay, I need to see something of that because like they, it's a whole thing. Okay, but uh, God, but yeah, I also realized you gotta go over one of my favorite episodes as well, which I'm very sad about. But it's fine. So with that, Jen, do you have anything else to talk about for episode 3 before I go on?
no.
Okay, so now we'll go on to episode 4, which is just called Ice Queendom. Shocking. Um, the that definitely does show you that this is where the new story fully is ramping up into. This is fully new because it is a fully new thing. It pretty much starts with Jean waking up from his nightmare from the last episode, and them kind of going over everything. I just now realized I kind of spoiled something for episode 5. Whatever, I don't care. We're gonna be talking about that in a hot minute anyway. But yeah, they go over all that. Then they they basically just be like, Jean thinks he's late. He doesn't know what happened fully. Like not at the moment that he woke up, but since we're not with Juniper that much, we don't know if he knew later or if they told him. But um, so the Grim, the Nightmare Grim, got casted out. Shion, yes, yes, okay, perfect. Say it now. Used her their wand staff thing with that has a dream catcher on the end, and kind of wraps up the Grim and puts it into a pot thing. Um, okay, so before we carry on, because I forgot to say this in the beginning, this is canon adjacent, so it can be if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. That's basically, and if I say canon-ish, it I mean the exact same thing, because it's if you want it to be, it can be. If you don't want it to be, it doesn't have to be. I think I'm on the camp that it could be, but anywho, not the point of this. Not technically it is. Anywho,
I was like,
uh,
half and
kind of like how if it's canon or not in the middle. You decide. But yeah, a lot of this episode is basically just setting up for the next 8 episodes of, or sorry, technically 7 episodes. Episode 12 is a fun episode after everything. Uh, is basically setting up a lot of stuff. We're seeing a lot of the same symptoms that Jean was having in the past happen much more frequently with Weiss now. And then, as you believe, somewhere in the middle of it, she also falls into this deep sleep, which is like, oh no, she also has this going on. It's gonna make a joke. Gonna keep that. So her veins was going much more like up her neck than Jean's that was going up his back. It's very much more like up her neck and onto her face. Jean's is very much all over his back and like his sides and stuff. That must be a lot more like where they got like pricked from the thorns and everything. Because the Grim itself look is very small and it looks like it's like a rose, it's like a white rose with black vines with white thorns on them. That's basically what it looks like with a giant eyeball in the middle because of the flower. Because of course it needs an eyeball, it needs to see. And we do see it in this episode, kind of like what it looks like and stuff. And it turns back into a seed, what they call seed, later on as well. Like when it got shoved into the pot, shoved in there. Um, but and then this is also the first time we see somebody else going into the dream. We don't see Juniper going into the team because the main point is it has to be someone that the person who's infected trusts, at least to a point. It has to be trusting from them and everything. So their body and their heart, because it always has to do with their heart. It's never their brain, never their liver, never their left kidney. It's always the heart. It always has something to do with the heart. Um, so the heart doesn't reject them from being in there and everything. So this is very much a mainly a reconnaissance mission, and this is when you see a big difference between what's been happening with Weiss and what's happening with Jean. With Jean, everybody pretty much had the same outfits on the whole time, except for Jean, who was I actually no, he technically had the same outfit on as when he went in. Technically, he was asleep. He was wearing his PJs. He still wore his PJs. So I mean, technically, but in this dream, everybody looks how Weiss sees them in her own mind. So Rwby is not wearing her normal attire of volume 1, 2. Um, she's wearing much more of a snow attire because everything's snowy, and we pretty much go through this whole area for the first time. I say first time. Gonna be seeing this area a lot. We go through it. We learn that if you go in there, you get a set amount of coins that you can use. That basically uses up some of. I'm trying not to say Shenron. That's not this anime. That's a different one. Um, using up their aura. So there's only a set amount that can be used because I believe at first Rwby, when she went in by herself, had 12 in her hand, and then later on, as more people go into the dream, each person gets less because that 12 has to be dispersed amongst everyone who's in there. Uh, so that's something you kind of learn, you see later on. But this is pretty much the first time we're going through and seeing what Weiss's Queendom looks like. Very, and you see it a lot of times when you go through it. There's set things that happen over and over again. It's basically the day is basically just like repeating itself in a lot of ways. But Weiss also thinks it's not the same day, just continuing. But so this is the first time Rwby goes through. Basically gets to a good to the middle of the city, almost to the end, to the last section of it, but then gets stopped by Nega or Nightmare Weiss. I guess I'm saying both now, aren't I? Who is also in a very different outfit. And I believe this is also when we see Juniper's outfits as well when they're in the cage. This is this episode, right? Yeah, because all the sillies must stay in their cage. Very weird, but um, they are all Juniper has brand new outfits except for Jean. He gets a scarf, a hat, and some mittens. That's it. Pyrrha gets basically Weiss's outfit in Volume 4. Uh, Ren gets a very traditional looking winter garb for what he is based off of. That's a good word. Good wording for it. Yeah. And then Nora also gets a very, I would say, very Volume 4 esque winter attire because she still has like that heart on the shirt and stuff, or on the jacket in this case. Um, so yeah, so she goes through. Nega Weiss is like, "Why are you here? Why are you at your cage? Go!" Because when they're in the dream version of Rwby is no longer there. They basically take their place and is dropped outside of the city because that's how this works. And then at the end, uh, basically it cuts as like Weiss is attacking Rwby, and then we go into the next episode. But we'll wait to go into that until we get there. So, so Jen, your floor,
My virtual floor, yes. All
yes,
right.
your
So
dream floor.
it was so odd because I was watching the episodes as they came out on Crunchyroll.
Mm-hmm.
So when episode 4 came out and Ruby's standing on a cliff in snow in her like ski jacket and all this stuff, I was very confused. I'm like, wait, did I miss something? So I did have to go back to volume or to the third episode and then figure out like, okay, like maybe we'll get like a flashback or something. Sometimes that happens. It happens in animes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I was just very confused. I saw that the train was being attacked, and in Ruby, there's a lot of trains. There's trains everywhere. There's trains and trailers, volume 6, volume 2. So it's no surprise that the train's getting attacked by the White Fang. And then it goes and shows the city, and you can kind of see the framework for Big Nicholas being built. Big Nicholas is Weiss's grandfather,
Yes,
uh, who fought in the Great War, I believe. Oh,
yes, yes.
Ruby Wiki help. So, but I know later on we'll see the connection between him and Weiss. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I did like the purple sky. I liked the visuals of it. I was a little bit confused. Why was Ruby there, not Blake and Yang? So I think Ruby was testing out the waters, so to speak, to figure out what was going on. So Ruby does have Crescent Rose. Yet the gun is backwards, so in Weiss's dream, sometimes the weapons don't work as they're intended. So either Weiss just wasn't paying attention and she's just like, this is how it should work. So instead of like looking down the barrel, the gun fires this way out the back, and Ruby's just like, what the heck? That's not how this works. So that was kind of funny to see. So Ruby also has like little decoys that she can use. That if she's trying to run away from somebody, she can like throw one and then those people will go follow the decoys. There is mention of the sillies. These are just people who don't belong in the dream that Weiss is building for herself. These are more or less just people that need to be locked up or taken out of the city back to the start. So, um, so there was like a bat creature flying around, and I was like, "Who is that? Is that just like another new character?" But it's actually Weiss's brother Whitley who's a bat, and I thought that was really curious. Like, why a bat? I'm still trying to figure out like what the bat symbolizes. So, we see Weiss going inside the Schnee Manor. We see like these invisible, I guess caretakers. I don't know, just like invisible people like helping take off her cloak, her books, her gloves, and whatnot. So that was kind of interesting to see. She's like making these reports and stuff. It's about the White Fang attacking. So,
Hmm.
uh, Rwby comes in contact with Team Juniper, who are behind cage bars in their little outfits and stuff, and they're actually meowing. They don't talk. They just sit there and they hold the cage bars and they're just like meow meow. So it's like I wonder what's going on. So and then like Rwby manages to find Weiss. There's a fight scene. They're trying to talk, trying to figure out each other out and stuff. It was very colorful. The background music was very good, and it kind of ends there. So before we start the next episode, Springy.
Oh wait, no. I think the reason because Weiss was very much leading that battle. She was very
Mm-hmm.
Ruby had to be very more defensive than
Yeah.
normal, I guess. Uh, and then I remembered, oh, the reason for why that happened is
Yeah.
in the next episode. I am sorry, my brain was okay.
Okay. Continuing. All right,
You
so now
have
we're
the
on
brain floor.
episode 5. Episode 5. All right, so yeah, so it starts with Xion wakes up Rwby before Weiss can deliver a blow. Before Weiss can get the final blow, like Rwby instantly wakes up. So then they're trying to figure out this plan. Like, what do we do? How do we get Weiss back? How do we stop the Nightmare Grim? So that's when the naming of like negative Weiss
Hmm.
happens, who's in the dream world, and they find out like negative Weiss, she's stronger, she fights harder. So Blake and Yang decide to enter the dream to help Rwby. They're like, we're gonna go in with you and all this stuff. And not only that, Team Juniper arrives. All 4 members come and decide to stand around and wait for the girls to wake up from the dream. So, and then the other thing too was, so back in the dream world, Weiss is like going through the motions of like, okay, like, cloak here and gloves here. It seemed very Groundhog Day to me, just like the same
Hmm.
thing over and over again. And I was just like, this is getting repetitive. Like, this has to mean something or something has to happen. So it was that. But we did get to see and hear the lovely Piraniko sing, which was totally unexpected. I was not expecting that. But it was so sweet to see. Like, my heart melted just seeing her sing the song Mirror Mirror, which Weiss sings in the White trailer. Uh, she's singing the song. The other team members of Juniper come up. They stand next to her as she's singing. The curtain closes as soon as she's done singing. So it was really pleasant to see. So after that, we have Rwby, Blake, and Yang try to enter the city, but Weiss finds out and sends an announcement to look for Rwby and Yang, but not Blake. Uh, Rwby and Yang decide to surrender and are taken to a prison cell that resembles their dorm room. So they're taken to the Schnee Manor. They're set up in their cell, which is actually their dorm room and whatnot. And then Blake uses a coin to make a door to the girls in the dorm room. So uh, Yang and Rwby play a game of rock, paper, scissors, shoot to see who stays. because now they're like, well, how come Blake didn't get called out in the announcement? So they're like, all right, one of us needs to go with Blake. So Rwby ends up going with Blake. Yang stays in the room. And they're exploring Schnee Manor a little bit more. And they find thrones covered in vines and Weiss waiting for them. So there was probably a lot of like references there, like, thrones, probably like past
Hmm.
members of like, Schneeduff's company and stuff like that being covered in the nightmare. And also, I meant to mention too that all the different doors, like the door that holds the sillies and stuff, are the different personalities of Klein, Weiss's butler, who represents all of the seven dwarves. So you have like bashful, grumpy, happy, Doc, and all that stuff. So that was really different to see.
Hmm.
Yes, that's all I have for episode 5.
Hmm. Get a drink of water. Oh,
Mm,
do it now. Um, yeah, there isn't a lot to add. Just like the small points of that. Uh, it was great seeing two different personalities of Klein talking to each other, with Grumpy Klein, who is like the leader of the armies because he's angry, because of course, and Sleepy Klein is the one who watches all the prisoners, because that's how that works. Make the sleepy one watch the most important prisoners. Anywho, and in the room they find a relic that looks like what they were looking for in the first the second episode technically, for like their team assignments and everything, but it's red this time. Um and that is something that they use to get through a lot of the nightmares thorns, because they get warned that if they get pricked by the vines in there, they will go to sleep inside the dream, well, or bad things will happen, and and the episode's called Awaken in a Dream. That's what episode 5 is called, right? That's the one we're on, right? Yeah, we are. Okay. But I the fight episode happens next episode, right?
mhm. Yes.
Yeah. The setup is for this episode. Fight.
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
Yep.
I'm gonna be talking about it in a second anyway, but yeah, the relic helps them go through a lot of the main blocks for the nightmare that they need to get to. But yeah, like Jen said, Nega Weiss, Nightmare Weiss is there waiting for them. And yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else important. But yeah, they had Yang stay for a little bit because the door was alive and would check in on them when it wasn't asleep. Uh, so yeah, they're like, this door is alive. Okay,
Mhm.
but I think the relic thing was the main important
Mhm.
thing. And yeah, the singing Pyrrha was great.
Mhm.
But once I heard it
Mhm.
in the Japanese version, I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear it in the English dub, and I was like,
Mhm.
yes. I was so excited. I even like screen recorded it and sent it to Jen.
Mhm.
So I was like,
I
yeah.
know.
And then
Shout
I
out to
found the
Jen
link.
Brown for singing. It was beautiful.
Yes, that Jen. And then but the screen recording I sent to this Jen. I didn't
This,
just
yeah,
send the other one.
no,
Here's a
I don't think
random
that'd be
DM of
allowed.
yourself. I thought you'd like it.
No.
Um, of yourself singing. And
Mhm.
I did see on the Twitters and the Instagrams that a lot of people
Mhm.
did enjoy hearing Jen Brown sing.
Mhm.
Like a lot of
Nice.
people, and that was great to see. I was about to say hear, and I'm like, well.
Mhm.
Um, um, but yeah, I think that's all. Yes. And if we're missing something, go watch the episode. Go pay someone money to watch the episodes. Uh, but now we're going on to episode 6, called "Do You Have a Plan?" So that kind of spoils what's going to happen in a second, but they get into a big fight. because of course they do. Uh, Ruby and Yang run off to try and get to the Grim while Blake is distracting Weiss because um, she is a faunus. Blake is a faunus. Shocking, I know. But um, mainly with like in this world, they never bring it up. But Blake now has claws.
Yeah. And a
They never bring
tail.
it up, and a tail. They never bring it up. They're like,
Mm,
whatever, it's fine. They bring up the ear, the one ear being poked out, and like, oh, is that how
mm,
White sees me? But not the claws or the
mm,
tail. Okay, but so and of course, Weiss was focusing on Blake because the Schnees in the past don't like the fathers, and the fathers in the past do
mm,
not like the Schnees for past reasons that I'm not get into because it's not important. Just know they do not like each other. Because Schnees aren't usually great people. Anywho, so like two of like one and a half of them. Uh, but that's my own opinion. Anywho, continuing on, the fights obviously are great. They're amazing. They're beautiful, so on and so forth. But that's something you say for a lot of these fights because they are in a more traditionally anime animated style. So of course it's gonna be much more um, bigger and different colors than what they were around this time period. If you went to go watch volume 1 or 2,
mhm,
is animation and stuff like that. But the fight does not go very well. They get pulled back out, all three of them, from everything that happened. Ruby did get pricked by the vines. Keep that in mind for later. Um, and gets pulled back out, and now they need a new plan because Weiss or the Nightmare, or technically both of them, destroyed the red relic that they had. So they're like, that's not great. Uh, so they're gonna need to find a new one. Hopefully they can. I think there's 20 of them, but there's a lot of them in there. I know. I technically it's a spoiler for later on, but there's 4. Like, don't break. They're like, please do not break this relic. And there's 4 of them. It's like, okay, you could break a few, it seems. But now they're back in the real world. Ruby, Yang, and Blake. Weiss is still out cold. Ha. Um, I know, horrible pun. I know. I'm a Jean on the outside, a Yang on the inside. Uh, um, that's horrible. Horrible. But do that edit.
That's
I'll
what's
cut that
going
out.
in the cosplay tea time quotes.
Oh God, not again! I can't. I can't be the only one in there. I shoved one of yours in there. Ah,
Okay,
no, I
so
think I shoved myself in there. Actually, hold on. But anywho, going on from that. So they all kind of just split off. The girls. Ruby talks to all of Juniper in the lunchroom. Blake talks to Sun, and Penny and Yang talk, which all the other makes sense. Penny and Yang doesn't really. I mean, out of the
Mhm.
ones that are there, but it makes sense because like we already had the voice actress here. Let's just we already have them here. Just make them do it. It's fine. Um, but it was all very nice, very awesome to see all this like kind of character growth in this much different formatted thing because the first few volumes are very short episodes, but a good chunk of them, but they're very short. They're like rarely they're over half an hour. Rarely. Most of the time they're barely over 10 minutes. But very early on at least. But they all come up with their own individual plans and they all kind of come together and make it one great plan. They do learn before they go back in that Jean, since he had a different nightmare Grim inside of him, he has a type of immunity or the Nightmare Grim within Weiss will ignore him more than anyone else because he's already had one and they don't. He has ruined the goods. They do not want him anymore. Uh, which I did feel bad for him. I was like, ah, Jean, because the wording was sad. I was like, ah, Jean, no, not my boy. And he really
That's my
did.
boy.
That's my boy. Um, he wanted to help, but like you saw, part of him was like, I don't want to go back in there. It's like,
Uh-huh.
why me? So they don't go back into the next episode, I do believe, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's next episode.
yeah,
They'll go back in.
yeah. They had to wait some time because Shion's.
Mhm.
I'm looking for the nod just in case I say it wrong. In case I say Chiron or
Yeah.
something wrong. Um, they have to wait for their aura to regenerate at least some to
Mhm.
a point, so they can go back in and still have the same amount of coins, and so on. Okay, try and make sure I don't spoil something for the one you're talking about. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Which did I say that? Yeah, I did say episode's name. It's Do
Yeah.
You Have a Plan? Yes, we have three, and they did kind of talk about and Shion did say that a lot of the plans that they had will work and does have good standing and could make a lot of sense. So and I believe trying to make sure. Yeah. Yeah. So with that,
My turn.
the dream floor is back up with you.
Uh, yeah, so just a couple notes about episode 6. Um, so like you mentioned, Blake and Weiss fights. Ruby and Yang are trying to find the source of the nightmare. They're trying to figure out like where is this all stemming from? Maybe we can defeat it. So Weiss criticizes Yang for coddling Ruby. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, Yang and Ruby are very close, but like coddling, I was like, not that. Weiss summons a Grim to fight. Ruby tries to grab the relic piece, but is pierced by the thorns. So then that's when Shinon wakes up the girls. So they're feeling a little bit defeated. So they all kind of go their separate ways. Ruby talks with Team Juniper, and during that whole scene, I wanted to yell at Nora and teach her how to sit like a proper lady. It was just like, you don't sit like that in a skirt. What are you thinking? So yeah, there's that whole part.
You and Jean
Mm. Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
we're not allowed to meet our comfort characters in Ruby. It just be nope. Yang talks to Penny, so I didn't mind that conversation. They were talking more about maintenance, like you can change what happens in a dream. I thought that was kind of interesting. I was kind of going it at first, like, yeah, I don't know if that could really happen, but maybe it is true. You can kind of go back and figure out ways to change a dream in a way. It's like really quick getting off topic, but I promise we'll get back right on track, like the white fang on the train.
Again.
Um, again. So, in my own experience, like I've had dreams in like three different places: a garden, a library, and just like a blank white space. And sometimes the same thing will happen in each dream, and sometimes there will be like little small changes or like little pieces added to that dream every time that I re-enter that dream world, if you will. So I'm kind of wondering if the writing team, if whoever was plotting all of this kind of did the same thing, like, oh, we'll just make it the same but just add on each time. I don't know, just this interesting thought. We can tack it on later on once we review the whole thing, but I'm wondering if that's kind of what was meant by maintenance. So, but Yang does bring that up in their little powwow meeting before they all go back in. And then Blake talks to Sun about accepting her as a faunus and how can Weiss do the same thing. Easy. And then, as Springy mentioned, we find out Jean is immune. But Jean doesn't want to go back in because he's just like, I don't want to do this anymore. But he decides to go back into the the dream with Ruby, Blake, and Yang. So, so then we start off in episode 7. Jean has a new sword and a cape, so he kind of tries to keep warm with this cape and stuff. So I messaged Springy, I'm like, guess who has to make a new sword prop for Jean? And he's like, not me. And I'm like,
Not me. I'm going to pay someone else to do that for me.
so
Sorry, go
we'll
ahead.
see how that goes. But it's a pretty cool looking sword, so I guess
Mm-hmm.
he made it. All right, so Jean and the girls board the train and they take care of the White Fang. You know, they're trying to defeat them. They call for Weiss to open up the gate, so they're just like pleading with her, like, open the gate, the train's coming in fast. So Weiss decides to do that because it just wouldn't go so well if the train did hit the gate. So she lets the train in. But they enter, I thought they were gonna enter like a city square, kind of like Polar Express, even though
Mm-hmm.
this is not anything like Polar Express. Whenever the train enters into like the little square with the elves and stuff, but it's actually like a fair area. Like if you go to like a fairgrounds during the summertime and like a little carnival, it's kind of like that setting. Um, so Jean sees his team members, and he's kind of confused because he's trying to talk with them, but they're not talking back with him, especially Pyrrha. So Jean sees like the relic, and they go to the relic, and he picks up the relic, and then Ren and Nora start talking, but Pyrrha doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of strange that Pyrrha could sing, but she couldn't talk during most of the episode. So so there's some stuff going on, and then there's like a bunch of like the little mini Weisses, like the mini silly Weisses. They manage to get free, and it becomes, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Attack on Titan, but there's been a lot of memes and parodies about all of a sudden there's like these like giant mini Weisses, if that makes sense, just like running around the city and stuff. So they're attacking, they have like their little rapiers and stuff. Jean's trying to protect Pyrrha. At one point, he grabs and holds her hand, and my little Arco's heart was like, yes, yes. Even though it was in a dream, I was still like, yes.
Yes. Yes. I don't need to smack this version of Jean. Maybe I still do. Depends. Sorry.
Um, but yeah, so we see them trying to get to safety away from all the mini Weisses, and then Ruby talks to them, talks to like Ren and Nora about like, freedom, like what does it mean to be free and whatnot, and how nice it is. But then it becomes a little bit creepy as Ren and Nora are kind of like possessed by the viney thorns again. And it
Mm-hmm.
just everything starts going downhill. At first it's like, yay, we're making progress, and then it's like, nope. We're back to square one. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much all I had for episode 7, which the name is ah,
Dreams come rude. R U
that's right.
D D. Not rude. I feel like they meant to
Yeah.
say rude, but they misspelt it. Because it's just two letters swapped. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. That's fine. But yeah. Dreams come rude. Um, yeah. We see that Jean is actually very much able to walk amongst everything without any issue. The giant robots are like, oh, okay, bye. Just don't care about Jean. Which debatably is how Weiss felt about him when they first met. I mean, it's horrible, but am I wrong?
No. Oh, no.
That's the worst thing about it. It's true. It's just Weiss's subconscious being like, oh, it's just Jean. Him and his little guitar. He actually didn't have it. But I do want to point something out. He has this brand new sword that is way too heavy for him at all times, even later on. And he still has his normal shield, and I don't know if in the episode of the next one, but we do see that he also has his normal sword as well. So he didn't have his weapon change. He's got new. In a nutshell.
Hey.
Yay! Dual wielding. I can't lose this one.
Yes.
Go against everything Pure taught me.
Oh god. No.
But yeah, the silly Weisses, the small ones, or the young ones, I guess. I guess are the best way because they're not always small. Whenever
Nah.
they hit something with their rapier, they
Mhm.
turn childish. So hearing a giant robot say, "I just want to play with my friends," I'm like, "Oh my god, this is getting out of hand."
Oh.
And also hearing like this menacing, very menacing statue of Jacques Schnee, which Blake name drops, and I believe in this episode or in the no, not in this episode. It was the first time they went through it, back in episode 4.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the list right now. That's why I know exactly which episode it was. As being a horrible person. But and then when he gets like kind of smacked with the sword, because it doesn't cut into them, it just kind of just pop, and then he's like, "I want to talk to my family more," and like he's holding his hand like a stereotypical anime female, just like yay, and that's just and reading and seeing that after like reading any parts of the Justice League S X Rwby stuff,
Mhm.
God, it's weird. It's two different people, which is the point. But yeah, and then like Jen says, the grim nightmare kind of just takes a hold of it, and it's like no fun for you, and took the fun things and made them very bad. Uh, the relic that Jean found within that cage, when he took it out, all the vines instead of saying no said yes. I think it was, or instead of off said on, or something like that. It was something along those lines. But that's when the mini young Weisses came out, and his relic was yellow, which at first I was like, oh, it's for Jean because he just came in. I'm like, no, it's for Yang. I mean, I guess technically.
No.
Uh, but yeah. So yay, new relic. Oh gosh, diddly dang it, more issues. But yeah, I think that's the main things of that. No, no, I think there's one thing, unless it's the next episode. Might be next episode. But what's next episode? I know it's like starts doing it in one episode and then continues in the next one. I can't remember if
Yeah.
it's between these two. It's the giant robot. Half the giant robot. Is it this episode or the next episode?
I think it's the next episode.
And then leads into episode
Yeah.
after that.
Episode
Okay.
8.
Gotcha. Okay. So, uh the craziness continued. Okay, so episode 7. No, hold on. Yeah, okay. Between 7 and 8, before I say anything else,
Oh,
this is when the dubbed is over, and you only can see these parts in the subbed version. So if you're waiting for the dubbed parts, wait about another, what, 5 weeks to continue this episode.
after Christmas.
After Christmas, exactly.
We'll come DMing you this link again. Like, you can watch the rest of it
Everyone.
now.
Everyone. We'll just put it in the comments. Just like, we're just going to put the. Now you can watch the rest in case you lost it.
Mhm.
But this next episode, that's your warning, is called Where You Belong, which is pretty much Weiss trying to fix everything that happened in a nutshell. All the nonsense that happened in the last episode that kind of carried on into this one, which is also when you see the and all the mega titan sized baby Weisses. Um, and for some reason my brain's just not remembering this one that well. Hold on, let me look at the picture of it. Hold on. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, the picture's not gonna help because it's just the last picture of the episode. Hold on. Wait, is it between those two? Uh, oh yeah. So all the robots are now bugged because to be all cheery and yay, I'm a killer robot, but I want to play outside. All that fun craziness. Um, and then obviously skipping big parts. Um, John is keeping Pyrrha safe the whole time, which warmed my Arco's heart. Um, um, the rest of the team are trying to figure out how to get back inside to defeat the Grim, this giant plant. Just giant plant of a Grim. Uh, and they're trying to get in there, and they're trying to get the relic from Jean, I believe. And yes, so obviously I skipped a big chunk of it, but I cannot remember this episode for the life of me
It's okay.
because of course this is the one I can't remember. The At the end of this episode is the coolest fucking shit I never thought I would see in this show. Is that there has been this giant statue on top of this version of Schnee Manor of Big Nicholas. Um, big, big Nicholas. And so Weiss pretty much does a Power Ranger stance or Kamen Rider, and obviously not this one. That's a if it's not trademarked, it should. This should just be fucking trademarked. It's Kamen Rider, but God. So she does her whole thing to activate uh this giant half of a mech of Big Nicholas. He now has arms and he's just picking up these giant baby Weisses, smashing them or squeezing them, and they're fine. But they're alive, or as alive as a baby version of yourself inside your own brain can be being stomped by a giant mech hand version of your grandfather. You know what I mean? But so they all turn like there's like 5 Mega Weisses, and they got turned into like small, like 15. There was like 5 each or something like that. Some mathematically equation that I don't know off the top of my head. So that happens, and then they all get dropped into, I do believe, some sort of portal-esque system where they all, or just directly back into the cage that they were in beforehand. They're just like, you all go back in here. A lot of the visuals of this scene is beautiful. They're really great, and I do believe, no, not yet. That doesn't happen yet. Hold on, brain. Just don't get ahead of yourself. Um, trying not to get too far ahead, but it's getting to my favorite parts. And yeah, this episode is called like "Where You Belong," and God, yeah, she shows Nega. I swear they called her Nightmare Weiss in the dubbed, in the subbed, whatever. I'm calling her Nightmare Weiss. I don't care, but yeah, they show up, giant mech, and then I think I technically spoiled a little bit of the next episode, but that's fine. It's fine. Jen, you have the dream floor once again.
Yay. So yes, you took the big Nicholas. That was kind of the star of the episode. Was him like getting ready, kind of like the final pieces are adding up. Total Attack on Titan vibes. I was really feeling it. So, um, so Weiss attacks Rwby when finding out the source of the nightmare, which is center of the stage. So I think there was like a stage somewhere, and as you all know, Weiss sings. She sings for her family and whatnot. So Rwby finds out this is where like the center of the dream is. If we destroy it, Weiss will wake up and everything will be fine, right? But during that time, Blake is portal to another place. So Rwby then finds out her hand is infected. She sees like the little viney shadows, all the thorns and stuff. Weiss destroys the relic and then sentences Rwby away. But as you know, Weiss thinks, oh well, Ruby's in the portal. She's gone. I'm done. Ruby hid behind a pillar and was like, stealth mode engaged. So she was able to hide away and makes her way back to the train. Actually, it was Jean who found her, takes her back to the train where Pyrrha and the Weiss sillies are hiding at. And they discovered that the sword, Jean's new sword, can kind of protect them. I forget how or why, but it's like stuck in the train and stuff, and the people in the city in the dream can't like detect like their presence and stuff. So as long as they stay on the train, like they'll be safe and won't get attacked as much.
Mhm.
uh so then it moves over to Blake and Yang. They're standing in front of a house, and this is where Weiss keeps the faunus at bay. So there's a bunch of like faunus roaming around. Blake's trying to figure out what's going on. And Yang's trying to help her figure this out as well. So at this point, you got Blake and Yang over in house. You got Rwby hiding with Weiss and Pyrrha. Nightmare Weiss thinks everything's all over. There's vines everywhere all over the city. But not only that, at the end of the episode, we see Rwby wakes up uh, from like the dream and everything, and everybody's coming over and applauding her and stuff. And then she sees like her dad and his wife, the cute little corgi dog, and all this stuff. And she's just like, "This isn't real. Like this isn't reality." So it's kind of like trying to remember the movie with where they go like a dream within a dream, and I've had that experience before, and it's pretty trippy, I will tell you. So you think you're waking up, but then it's a dream, and then you wake up again. Like it's very different. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where the episode ends for number 8. So moving on to episode 9, which is called
God. There's one time I put my phone down when I'm not looking at it.
Darn.
My dream, your dream.
Okay. Yeah. This will kind of make sense in the beginning part. So Rwby is still in this dream/nightmare, mostly because um she has like the nightmare grim, because she was pierced by the thorns and stuff. Um so she's going through this whole dream nightmare world type of thing. So it then cuts over to Weiss singing Mirror Me. However, instead of like the musical background, like there's no instruments, there's no backup vocals, there's nothing. It's just like a nice a cappella. It sounds a bit sad, a bit mournful. As she's standing there, she's in front of like an ice coffin, which, as you all know, Weiss alludes from Snow White.
Yes, we
Um,
all know this.
you just asked me the other day. You were like, "Does Weiss come from Snow White?" And I'm like, "How did you not know that? Don't
Yeah,
do
we
that."
all knew this while we were watching it. 100%. I just thought Weiss really liked apples.
It's like
Sorry,
red
go ahead.
earrings and stuff. No, you're good. Um, so yeah, so love that. The two different Weisses. And in some ways I started kind of connecting with Weiss again, little personal. I wasn't the biggest Weiss fan until Ice Queendom. How Weiss just feels like kind of different and alone at times, and just like, who am I supposed to be and all that. So I kind of started connecting with Weiss in this way a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh yeah, enough about that. It's back to the show. We have Blake and Yang. Again, they're at the mansion. There's White Fang everywhere, and they're trying to figure out like what went wrong between the Schnee Dust Company and the White Fang. Like, why does Weiss have this? I want to say hatred. That sounds so mean, but just like this,
Negativity.
you know, just negativity about the whole situation. So they're trying to figure out what to do. Rwby and Jean manage to move the train further into the city. They're defeating robots and approach the big Nicholas statue. And of course, Weiss catches on what's going on, and she is not happy about any of this. She's not having it. So that leads up to Weiss and Rwby are fighting one another. The sky is just beginning to break, so the like purple greenish sky above them starts to break and crack. there's White Fang falling from the sky, something you don't see every day, and then Blake wearing like a White Fang outfit comes from the sky and starts to attack Weiss. And we find out why in the next episode. So Springy.
Yay! I know I'm not talking about that episode yet, but I'm happy I get that episode. I forget. Going over it is making me remember exactly where things are, and it makes me happy that I get to go over that one. So, um, all out my brain. So inside the dream with Ruby, she kind of talks to what we can assume to be normal Weiss within her own dream, inside of Ruby's dream, and all that. Uh, and that happens a lot more in like in horror movie media with like there's a jump scare, then oh now it's done. Oh, it's another jump scare, that type of thing. That happens a few times in those types of movies. Um, that's my brain couldn't think of like what movie it was that you're talking about. But they were talking, and Ruby asked, "Hey, why is Kristen Rose backwards?" She's like, "Well, there's a reason for that. You sometimes you'll need to shoot things that are behind you, and not just what's in front of you. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Listen to me." um, so wife leaves. We also assume like, we're gonna we're gonna have to like Blues could do, you can do, just into 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 Ruby next. Like go deeper into the dream. Yes, I made a Blues Cruise reference in this Ruby
I'm
thing.
all
It's
for it.
fine. Oh, because it's not that far off. But yeah, so the solution to that was Jean very uh I'm very proud of him for his strength, but very dangerously picks Ruby up and tries to put her hand that got like scratched by the vines closer
Yeah.
up to the sword that's poking out through
Oh,
the
yeah.
top of the ceiling. Um, and that's how that got fixed from there. But now she's immune to the things too, because technically there's a Nightmare Grim in there too. But um, yeah, because the other thing happens next to me. Okay, so is there anything else you want to say about episode 9 before I continue? Okay. So, episode 10. Shit's hitting the fan. Uh,
Simply put.
simply put, shit has hit the fan. It's going to get worse. Um, episode 10 is called Mirror of Darkness. So, Blake had a interesting idea. The one thing I was going to say from episode 9 is that they found the black relic within this nightmare version of a Grim Faunus hybrid house. And Weiss did also have one, but that one got shattered before while she was singing in the last episode. Yeah. And they learned that every single time they take the relic from there, that location gets viney as well. But yeah, Blake's in retrospect brilliant plan, but not great for for everyone's mental status at the moment. Um, uh, calls up Shion, and asks, "Hey, what would happen if you put the nightmare gram that was in Jean, you let it out for one, and B, let it infect me? Would that work? So then I am at the same power level as Nightmare Weiss." Sean's like, "Well, I guess it will work." Blake's like, "Is there anything else we can do at this point that's better?" "Well, no, so might as well. It's fine because this is the last jump they can do into Weiss's mind, because or else it's not they're not gonna have time to recharge and send them back in and be able to save Weiss fully. So they're like, okay, I don't trust this, but okay. Yang has an issue with it because their relationship is not getting his back. Cause that's fucking fandom. Ah, anyhow, so Yang does not want this to happen.
Mhm.
um, so yeah, so all that they had a chat, being like, I don't want this to happen. Blake's like, well, we got to, and you will be able to save me and everything and all that fun stuff. And Yang agrees. She takes the relic and starts. And once the Nightmare Grim is inside Blake, Blake starts to feel it. It's like, okay, Yang, you need to go. And Yang, as I shake my computer, books it out of there because that's what she got told to do is just
Mhm.
to book it out of there, just to run for the hills. Which she does. And so the cracking of the sky kind of starts there. Uh, Everything starts dying and getting caught in flames and all that fun. Um, Weiss find and sorry, then Yang finds John's little cape, and Bumblebee, and she zooms off and was able to get in the train with Ruby and John and fake Pyrrha and the baby Weiss. Um, so yeah, so next, so uh, so we then see the whole scene again from the last episode, basically, just shortened a little bit, kind of like what they did with the Big Nicholas with the few episodes before. They just pretty much recapped it. Um, so yeah, so now we have Nightmare Blake up against Nightmare Weiss because we're mirror. Maybe Weiss will finally realize that we're mirror opposites. Oh my god, it's like black and white are two different colors. Oh my, or two opposite colors. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm really animated today. I'm tired and I'm animated at the same time. Um, but that happens. They have a neat fight. Blake is very much looking much more like awesome than her inside of Weiss's mind outfit. This new Blake outfit, the Nightmare Blake outfit, is it's great. Um, I don't know why. It's a neat looking outfit. I really like it. It's my favorite Nightmare design of the three, in my opinion. Um, but that could also just be because I was more saturated with the first two, and then like I kind of almost got surprised with Nightmare Blake one, kind of, sort of. Still got a little bit spoiled for it. It's fine. But yeah. So they start that fight because the issue was that Nightmare Weiss can be as strong as she needs to be. Like it's a dream. She can be as strong as she wanted to be, and that was an issue. So Blake was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do that too," and that started. Um, both get to. So they start having their fight. Ruby and Yang basically go inside or try to go inside. Yang distracts Big Nicholas. Big Nicholas. Um, they say it so many times in the show like that. It's not just me being stupid. But Ruby sneaks in, and I don't. The feeding of Weiss's Grim isn't in this episode. Next one, right? Or is it at the end of this one?
I remember.
I'm gonna say it.
Mm.
I'm gonna say it, and then if it's in the next
Okay.
one, whoops. Um. So how it got defeated was that the big Grim that they've all been thinking, oh, this is where it is. That wasn't the one they were
Mhm.
looking for. It was the one that was behind them the whole time. So it was in their own shadow. So Ruby shot at it behind her. Yeah, it got hurt. It got defeated. Did. As Weiss was kind of being brought back out, being like, "Oh, well, this was a stupid fight. I didn't. Okay, well, this is stupid." Being because like they were very much polar like very similar, but just two two sides of the same coin type of thing. Being the Schnee Dust Company and the White Fang being the same, pretty much. Um, do believe in this episode is also when we skipped a whole monster technically. So the Jacques Schnee statue that was like, yay! So it got covered in like this badass looking armor, and was fighting everyone else basically. And Jean was able to defeat it thanks to Pyrrha and some of the baby Weisses that were left, who weren't frozen in time. With their little rapiers doing some gravity dust, and John's like, haha, I can hold this now. I can wield it better. And, starts cutting at the giant Jacques Cheney in armor and started kind of cutting off. It's just like you have to hit it and then just that limb, poof, is gone. Okay. And I'm going to stop just in case I'm spoiling something for episode 11. So take it away from the amazing convoluted thing I just said. Go.
You're fine, because episode 10 I didn't have that many notes, but you are right, there was a lot going on, a lot of dialogue and whatnot. So yes, Yang. So episode 10, Yang and Blake are talking about a plan. They phone Sheenon. They're like, what do we do? How do we do this? This wasn't part of the plan, basically. So they're trying to figure out what to do. And the only thing that they could do was to turn Blake into a nightmare, since Weiss didn't recognize Blake in her dream. So if it's like, well, if we turn Blake into a nightmare, she can fight off the negative Weiss. So since Weiss has a hatred for White Fang and Faunus due to what they did beforehand. So and then that's when, Yang books it. She goes and gets Bumblebee. She wears the cloak that John had, and then goes to help fight in the battle with Rwby to defeat the source of the nightmare. So that's basically all I had for episode 10. So I'm glad you took that one. So episode 11. Yeah. Not only that, in episode 11, there was a lot that happened as well. So Blake is now fighting Weiss, and explains that the White Fang really needed, but it's more darkly. I don't know what I meant by that. Maybe I should have rewatched. Oh no. But basically, what the White Fang wanted, and this is mentioned in the original volumes as well, just like peace, fairness, prosperity. They just wanted to be seen and treated equally as humans. So, and then Weiss counteracts that and says, well, I'm just trying to fix the company. I want things to run differently. I didn't like how my family handled things, so I'm going to handle things differently. So, and as Weiss is revealing that, it becomes apparent that Blake is very powerful, that the nightmare is taking up too much of her. And then that's when Weiss realizes, like, I want the original Blake back. I don't like this nightmare version of Blake. Like, let's do something about this. Meanwhile, I think Rwby was in a different place, and she was trying to get like the relic or something, and that's when she awakens her silver eyes. Now, if you're a part of the original Rwby gang, Rwby doesn't activate those until Volume 3. Now, this is canon adjacent, or somewhat canon, so why would Rwby awaken her eyes? I'll explain more here in a minute too, because in the next episode, that's when I was just like, this doesn't feel right. But yeah, so Rwby uses her silver eyes. She uses it to protect herself and not someone else like she did in the original. Like when she used her silver eyes before, it was because she saw Pyrrha, be Thanos snapped in front of her. But Rwby uses it to protect herself and not so much like a friend or a family member. And the other thing that was interesting too was that in season 3, when she first used it, she passes out, but in the episode, she appears fine, like she's walking around talking and stuff. So I have a thing or two to say about that. because then not only that, it was like, well, wouldn't Professor Ozpin had said something, noticed something during training, like, you know, it's somewhat canon, but it just seems so off to me that they're just like, oh yeah, she has silver eyes and she can use them and all this stuff. It's just like season three, or yeah, in volume three, we all had no idea that silver eyes wielded so much power until like that moment, and it was just so like epic and so strong. And here it was just like, oh, silver eyes, toss, and I was just like, no, that's not what they're there for. It's so much more. So,
Mm-hmm.
and now that I have the Grim Fairy Tale book, I'm gonna go read that later on and see. So there is a fairy tale about the silver-eyed warriors. So,
Oh,
um,
maybe there's a reason in there.
yeah. So anyway, amidst all of that, Ruby catches Weiss's nightmare, and so now they have to get Blake back to normal Blake. So Weiss is back to her normal self. Her nightmare is captured, but Blake is still very powerful in this nightmare type of situation. So within all of that, Yang goes into Weiss's mind where there's a flashback, and we see Big Nicholas, so Nicholas Schnee, and a younger version of Weiss sitting and talking in like a garden setting, and it seemed like a very typical, you know, grandfather granddaughter relationship. He's teasing her, she's laughing and stuff. So we see like that interaction going on. We see how close they were, how connected they were, and whatnot. So uh after all of that, the three girls then lead up to the big fight. If you're a Ruby fan, you know the fight scenes are always the best. That's one of the reasons why we pretty much watch the shows, because of the fights. And it made me really happy and excited to see, even though they were fighting like one of their teammates, kind of. Just the music, the animation, each one fighting off the negative. I think it's supposed to be negative. Like, I don't know why I have negative voice. Probably because I typed that 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
But they were able to, you know, individually fight. They fought as a team, and then Ruby catches the nightmare that Blake has, and that's gone too. So, you know, everything's said and done. All the hullabaloo is done. Um, all the nightmares are catched and whatnot. And then suddenly it clicks with Weiss what just happened and what she has done. And she is so embarrassed by everything. She's like, don't tell anyone. Like, don't even tell Team Juniper. And it's like, it's too late. Team Juniper's been here for a while. And she's just like, oh my
Well, Jean's over there in the corner, just like,
god. Yeah, so there was that little wholesome moment at the end of episode 11.
yay! Oh god, episode 11. Uh, fight scene wise, debatably 10 and 11 were some of the best ones in my opinion. Because like I said, I love the design of Nightmare Blake. That's just my personal opinion on that. My hair is just not helping with me today. I need to cut it. But that's a whole different conversation that I don't need to have here. I have that with the hairstylist. Uh, but anyhow, so yeah, Shion caught all the nightmares that were inside of Weiss, and then Re caught the one that was in Blake. After some pretty awesome fight scenes, like Jen did mention. Um, I think because of some stuff that happens in episode 12, that's why I'm kind of thinking this. Um, they kind of they didn't really explain it. It was just like the silver eyes thing. I thought was interesting. I think it was kind of explained away by like for in Ruby's own mind, at least for the moment, was that oh, it's just something that happened in the dream. I defeated it enough, and now I went Super Saiyan or something. Because they're known to play a lot of video games, and they're like, ah, final move, huh. And they did say later on in episode 12 that Ruby doesn't fully remember how she defeated it. She was just like, by the powers of teamwork, and all that Disney Channel stuff. Uh, am I wrong? But uh, yeah, and earlier on, I completely forgot. they did also kind of tease at Jean's semblance being active as well during those scenes as well. At least during some
Mhm.
of it to have more time in there and stuff like that, because that's Jean's semblance is basically to amp. I think it's just called amp or something,
Or amp.
or amp, yeah, to pretty much amp up other people's aura and help them with their semblances and stuff like that. That's why it's an immense amount of aura, which is that they don't talk about in this, but they talk about in a normal show. But I wanted to mention that. But um, pretty much you did go over a lot of the main points because after they kind of knocked Blake around enough, actual Blake popped out of Nightmare Blake, and then all four of them defeated her Nightmare Grim self, and then defeated the Grim of Nightmare that used to be in John. Rwby 2, Juniper 1. Or yeah, technically. Uh, but yeah, and it does lead into a very nice, Weiss is now horribly embarrassed, and that does go into episode 12 a little bit as well. Just like, don't you ever dare tell anybody that this happened, and then they wake up and look, everybody already knows. Uh, well, Weiss should have said something earlier before we let everyone else in the room. I don't know why. For some reason, I just like see like other teams from Beacon, just like popping in, and be like, "Hey, we saw that both teams were gone, and the teachers didn't tell us why, so we wanted to come see what happened." So because that makes more sense, like with like a high schooler esque thought process. So I feel like a lot of the other teams from Beacon know. Like we can say that they don't, but I feel like they do.
They know.
Uh, Mainly because like headmaster's just gone, and one of the other main
Yeah.
teachers is just gone. They're just off doing something else. It's like, well, the two people who were helping me with my homework aren't helping me no more. Uh, they're too busy with whatever Team Rwby is doing and Team Juniper. But then that's pretty much that pretty much wraps up episode 11, which a lot happened. Um,
Yeah.
So then pretty much episode 12 is very much just a recovery process from everything that happened. It's very much when a lot of bad things happen, and the next episode's like, hey, much happier. Um, First off, Ozpin asks to see Rwby and Blake separately and in his office in a little bit. Ozpin kind of was like, "Do you know how you defeated the two Grims?" And she was like, "I don't know. Uh, the first one I don't remember that much, but the other one was the power of teamwork." And Ozpin was like, "Okay, well, you will grow much in your wise years, Ruby Rose, or whatever Yoda esque thing he's saying." I know two people who love Ozpin, and they're gonna hate me after this. Oh god. Okay. Sorry. um, I'm not gonna stop the impression though, because the whole scene with Blake. Um, but oh god. Okay. So Austin's just like, okay, fine. You don't want to tell me what happened? Fine, go, shoo. And she leaves, and joins up with her team who's waiting there, and they're like, hey, what happened? She was like, I with the power of teamwork. That's what I told him. And
Why she have like a country twang?
I don't know. I like to stereotype country. I don't know. It just slides in there at all times. Um,
No.
Everybody's like, okay, cool. And Blake's like, yeah, now I need to go talk to him too. I wonder what about. And then Ozpin, with his Yoda-ness, asks Blake, are you know, young one, you do not need to be afraid of your Jedi old man sayings of
Oh,
wise words of I do not care if you're Alphanus. Why do you still hide thyself? Blake's like, well,
mm-hmm.
I appreciate it, but There's a lot of other shitheads here. Pardon. uh, we saw once. I don't think he even talked. I don't care. I just want to bring that up. He was like, "Fair enough, young one. You may leave." Uh, and Blake walks out expecting nobody to be there because she said that they can go and start eating with Juniper and all that. Weiss stays, and they have their little conversation of, "I don't actually hate you, I promise," to each other basically, and like, don't you fucking dare tell anyone. And Blake's just like, "Everyone already knows, but whatever, fine." Uh, but sorry, now wait, I'll spin it is Yoda-ness. Oh god, all the people who like Osprey are gonna hate me. Oh, okay. If they make it this far in the video, which is like almost 2 hours long. um, but yeah, and then this episode's called "Best Day Ever," which then pretty much after they kind of have a little chat and eat a little bit, Sun was there as well. Uh, he was also there at the eating time because they wanted to have the Rwby Yang and Weiss talking, and then Blake mumbling to herself in the corner with Sun. Um, and then they did that, and then basically the first few minutes of Volume 2, Chapter 1, I was trying to think of the word, where it basically happened. Because I looked it up, I was like, when does this happen? And basically them officially coming back into being students at Beacon and everything. Because I guess all of Ice Queendom was like their summer break, which worst summer break ever. You're still at school. You almost died. At least 3/4 of you almost died. Not counting Juniper's team. um, yeah, and they basically went through all that. They did the food fight scene. And I know Jen's gonna say something about it. So I'm gonna skip the thing that I know Jen's gonna talk about and talk about my thing. Of that they cut down a lot of it because it led right into the end of the episode. It was like freeze frame type of thing. So woo! And yeah, that's pretty much Ice Queendom in a nutshell. Of
A long nutshell.
a 2 hour long nutshell.
Exactly.
This is a great video to come back to after like 2 weeks of nothing.
Make it up for
Or
lost time.
4 actually, because it'll be coming out in 2 weeks from now.
Oh,
It's fine. Anyway, Jen, do you have something to talk about with Ozpin's Yoda-ness and everything?
oh gosh, I know who I'm sending this clip to. I think you know it too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness.
I will
Yes.
send you the video
So
to do a clip of too, because I don't
that
care.
would be wonderful.
You make the clip and you send it to me too, so I can send it to my other Ozpin friend.
Oh yeah, totally. Let's see. So yes, we see the girls bonding in the dorm right after the whole ordeal. They're doing things. They're talking about what happened and whatnot. We also see Shinon leaves the academy. They're talking with Professor Ozpin, and something that they said caught my attention. They said that their semblance grew, and I was like, does that mean it leveled up? Because in later volumes, hashtag spoiler warnings for Ruby's volume 8 and 9, I believe, some of the characters go through like
We don't know what
an
happens after
expansion
that
pack.
yet.
Not yet, but yeah. But there's kind of like this like level up type of situation, so where like your semblance kind of evolved. So I'm wondering if that also happened to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so Professor Ozpin Yoda
And his
talks
Yoda-ness.
with Ruby first, and he's talking about her power, but he's kind of dancing around the subject. I don't know if he wants her to like mention like, yeah, there was this weird occurrence that doesn't happen, but he's just kind of like, did you notice anything strange, anything weird besides normal, unlike dream like stuff? So She has no idea what happened. She has no idea that she flashed her silver eyes and used that power. She didn't have a headache. That was something I mentioned earlier. When she first used it, she blacked out and woke up with a headache. So that just seemed very odd to me that she used it then when in the later volume she uses it in something different occurs. So I don't know. Still trying to figure out Silver Eyes. I figured it out mostly. Now I got to figure out Silver Eyes. So never ends. There's always homework to do with Ruby. Yes. So next we move on to Blake. Blake enters the room with Ozpin, and he seems very suspicious if whether or not she's like the real Blake. Like, is this really the original Blake, or is there still like a nightmare inside of her? It's like really tense and just like kind of
Mm-hmm.
awkward at times. It's just like no, that's Blake. I don't think like it wouldn't be. So, or even that she's like still part of the White Fang, but I know during like Ruby, the early volumes of Ruby, she's like she's cultural ties with the White Fang. So, like real versus not real type of situations. So, let's see. Sorry, I lose my voice now. We also see a little bit of Team Juniper appears training with Jean. Um, because Jean needed help from his team before, but now he's working to help protect his team. So we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Volume 3 flashbacks. Anyway, they did the last line in the first episode, such as like the narration and whatnot. They were working towards that. They did have the cafe scene where they're all talking, flashbacking, and all this stuff. And then, of course, we have the epic food fight scene that starts in Ruby Volume 2, Chapter 1. I was very excited to see. As soon as I saw the title, I'm like, yes, I know exactly where this is going to take us. So I was super stoked. And just to see like that in the animation style. The one thing I was disappointed in was the Nora line was not said. When she stands up on those tables with her hands on her hips and says, "I'm queen of the castle," and I saw her and I'm like, she's gonna say it, and then it cuts over to like the team and I'm just like, you say it now? How about now? How about now?
Now.
And she didn't say it once, and I was like, I am disappointed because that is such an iconic moment. I have posted that picture. I do a Nora role playing page. I have just posted that picture, like no caption, and people were like, if you could hear an image, you can hear this one.
Yeah.
So it's just like you see it and you hear it, but I wanted to hear it. So yeah, I was pretty bummed out. I was a little bit disappointed in how the food fight ended because, Ruby just pretty much takes all of Team Juniper, slams them into a wall with all the food and stuff. And I think that kind of showed her strength, not just in her semblance, but her strength that if you mess with her and her team, like she can and will take anyone out. So, yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in that. Yeah, she will go for you. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had. I thought it wrapped up very nicely. That was an excellent show. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I see.
I did love that it did very much show like exactly where in the timeline this would be if you because I personally don't see a big issue
Yeah.
with it being canon because like
Mhm.
because everything with Silver Eyes, you did see a little bit of a
Yeah.
scene of like them lightly glowing underneath the because like they all have like
Mhm.
bandages over their what did
Yeah.
technically bandage or bandage like things over their faces, so you did see
Mhm.
a little bit of a glow. So like maybe not everybody saw it. Half of Ruby's team didn't see it at all. So like plus, I mean, it was so, there is a time skip
Mhm.
of like what two? It's like a year at least between
Yeah.
4 and 3. So like, but
Mhm.
yeah. But I did like that they showed that okay, this is where this technically starts, and this is where it ends,
Mhm.
and then they
Yeah.
go into basically volume 2 and all that. I did
Mhm.
really miss the Ruby just pretty much flinging everything to the back wall. Just everything and everyone except for her team to the back wall.
Mhm.
I missed that. That was the thing I mainly missed. But because just seeing just all that rushing, but it freeze framed, and I was like, okay. But I agree, it is a very good show. So now we're gonna kind of go into like final thoughts and everything. Um, I had a thought early on, and I forgot it. It was an hour ago. That's what happens when I have thoughts early. That's what I have. That's what happens when I use my brain. But yeah, I did really enjoy it. I binge watched a lot of it all at the same time. I watched the first three because they came out for free on either Rooster Teeth's YouTube or Crunchyroll's YouTube or someone's YouTube that was official. The first three almost as a movie, and then they re-released them separately for like the first 3 weeks, which I think that was kind of stupid, but that's my own opinion. Take it or leave it. And then I wasn't able to really catch up with it until 2 weeks ago when we first planned to make this video, or like when we actually had a date planned to do this video. I was like, I'm done, yay! Make a video about it. Uh, but I did. I realized as I was doing it, I was like, hey, I'm watching this exactly how I watched the original Rwby because I watched volume 1 to 7 in like 3 days or something.
Mm.
Yeah. Uh, that was before I had college and had too many things to
Nice.
worry about. Um, but yeah, like I said earlier, as of this recording, only episode 5 has been dubbed, which
Mhm.
we heard Jim Brown singing. Yay. But as of this episode coming out, it'll be up to episode 7 that would be dubbed, which will have come out yesterday as of this recording, or as of this coming out, because it's coming out on Monday, so it'll be a Sunday, and yeah, and all that fun stuff. Obviously, continue to support Rwby. Um, just bullshit on all
We're
this
not
stuff.
a drama
We're
channel.
not a drama channel. We might be we might be having technically making people act, but we're not drama. But one fun fact about this in general is that if you want to go west, when we were doing the and Jen knows because she was there, the Rwby professor's interview, we I knew a person who actually did Shion, who actually does them. Like as the series isn't even over yet at the time, and they already had a cosplay done, and they went to RTX in it and passed out. I think they passed out stickers or something. I can't remember. It
Oh.
was like one of their cosplays that passed something out. But yeah, it was. But like the timing didn't work and everything, so it was. But it was also like halfway through the Ice Queendom when it was subbed, so like we didn't know anything yet. Sorry, I thought some my mom. I thought my mom was messaging me, but no. Okay, but yeah, I just thought that was funny. So watch out for part 2 of that. But watch the one that's out. If I remember, I'll put a link to it here-ish at some point over there. But I think that's about it. I did really enjoy it. I do think it can be canon, other than just like small little things here or there. But it, like Jen said, and like I said earlier, it is canon adjacent, canon ish, canon if e, whatever wording you wish to say. So yeah.
I'll give my overall thoughts real quick before I wrap up. So yes, it did appear a bit cuckoo at times, like a little bit crazy. Some things were just like weird and out of place, like having sillies everywhere and trains everywhere and stuff like that. So it's just like it was very confusing watching it. But then I realized that it's kind of like a dream. where sometimes things just don't make sense. They don't. It's not like a movie where it's like this and that and this and that. Sometimes you might just have like little random pieces here and there. Like 1 minute you're in this room, next minute you're over here, and this is going on. So, like I mentioned before too, I have different like little dream worlds of my own that I go to, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like it'll start like at the same spot, but then something might change a little bit. So I feel like I kind of connected with Ice Queendom in that way. That okay, like yes, Weiss is going through the whole Groundhog Day motion, but then something different will change in that dream. Like Penny mentioned, that maintenance that you're able to change a dream. So I may not be able to go in and be like, all right, mine, like I want you to dream this tonight or something like that. But every now and then something different will appear
Mm-hmm.
in the dream world. So not only that, it was a bit weird to see Weiss so cold and distant. I know she kind of has that personality, but after like seeing her stand up for Blake in volume 7 and 8, and then it's like now you go back and you watch her being like cold and like telling Blake like, oh, it doesn't matter and all this stuff, and it's like, but you two get like really close later on. Like it was a bit weird at first, and I'm like, no, this is earlier before they go to Atlas. So, all right. And then lastly, it was just nice to see some history about the Faunus and the White Fang, just kind of where they stood. I know there's a World of Remnant snippets, so kind of just like little bits and pieces about like Remnant's history. Like I said, for I have the Grimm fairy tale book. There's like the Shallow Sea, um, and stuff like that. That kind of gives fairy tale and history to like the Faunus and what
Mm-hmm.
happened and all the non love they go through. So there's a lot that goes on. So again, Rwby, you have to do your homework sometime, not just like cut black and white. It's just like you have to go and look up these things. So yeah, always
Mm-hmm.
fun. Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. I thought it was very well done. Music was good, animation was good. Seeing those scenes reanimated, seeing the same lovely characters again. Wish there was more Team Juniper, but this was about the girls and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to seeing, will there be a season two? I don't know. I've seen some rumors that there might be, but nothing's confirmed yet at this moment. Um, but one exciting thing is that I am working on the Nora volume, or Nora volume, the Nora Ice Queendom coat. So hopefully I will get that out here soon. So
And I will search for the hat. Eddie,
it is so easy. Hat, scarf, and mitt.
it's just a hat, a scarf, and mittens. I just need them all to be orange. That's it. Um, um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Um, Again, you can watch it on the Crunchyrolls with the premium stuff. You can watch it on the Rooster Teeth with the premium first member stuff. As of this recording, that is the only way to watch either version. It's not like the subbed is now out for free and the dubbed isn't. They're both still behind a paywall. So keep that in mind. Rooster Teeth, don't come sue us because
Please don't.
or me technically. Um, but and this is not sponsored at all by anyone ever. All the Rwby contact retail. Uh, just should just be called fucking Rwby interviews. Jesus Christ. Uh, but yeah. All with all that said, thank you, Jen, for coming on and doing this with me. I do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, as
Of
always.
course. Next Demon Media will come out. Ah, your best guess is mine. As of right now, I think the only planned one, loosely planned, is going to be going over volume 8, maybe just 8, and then doing 9 and just kind of doing it by season since we're caught up ish. Because volume 9 comes up God knows when. Or gods, technically, going off of their lore. But Yeah, I think with that, that's about it. Don't forget to check out all that Jen's doing. There's all the 20,000 things Jen is doing. There will be a link to at least half of them, or
Mm-hmm.
a name to at least half of them in the description below. And don't forget to go and watch our reviews, my reviews for the show so far. Jen has all the books pretty much covered. I know you said you're planning on
Well,
doing a Roman holiday at one point,
it'll be
soon
out here
ish,
soon.
out
Soon.
here soonish. So go check those out. She's got the books tied down. I got the show. Uh, uh. Now who's the reader out of both of us? You decide. Um, but with that, I hope you all have a nice rest of your day. I have no idea when the next video will be out. Um, I hope you all had a nice Halloween let's say Salem. That's not the holiday. The Samhain
Oh, wait.
holiday in general. Salem's a different thing. Um, if you're in the United States, get excited for Thanksgiving. That's coming up here soonish because this is coming out in November, on November 7th. And Christmas, also around the corner. My birthday, day before Thanksgiving this year, the 23rd. I'm excited. Gonna be 22. Still have never done any of what my age group would call fun, aka no drugs so
Oh,
far. Things so far,
yeah.
because God.
Stay clean.
Um, but with that, I hope you all have a nice rest of your day. At least I see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Bye.